Welcome to Unscripted with Jamie and JJ Eubanks. Well, people have been asking us to do a podcast for a lot of years, and here we go.
Here we are. So it's time to, I guess, do the unfiltered, unscripted.
Unscripted, not to be confused with unfiltered with JJ and Jamie Eubanks.
Absolutely. So let's get it started.
Let's do this. So a lot of times people are always like, you need to share your story. You need to get it out there, and you need to share with the world what you guys have been doing, how you got here, and all of this. So JJ, I would say our life together started back in 1993 when you was already playing professional basketball, but I was at Sullivan University, and you came back. Was it between Italy and Greece, or Greece and Italy?
It's between Italy and Greece. Even Italy en route to Greece.
Awesome. And so you came back and went to a basketball game where your former basketball coach was having a party. Now that it's 30 years later, I guess we can let the cat out of the bag on that part of the story, because I'm sure that wouldn't be real acceptable that the coach was having a party that we were at, but that's technically where we met. But Sherry Klein actually was the one that introduced us, and Sherry has since passed, but we always say she was a huge instrumental part of us getting together.
Well, you and I went to Sullivan University at different times. I went there when it was Sullivan Junior College of Business, and you went there when it was Sullivan University. So between those 2 years, they had changed the name. So I'd already been, over in Italy playing, decided to come back home for switch out clothing. 10 days.
Switch out clothes.
10 days to switch out some clothing to go to finish the rest of the year in Greece. And I decided to go watch Sullivan play a basketball game and visit, my old coach, and visit some of my former teammates that was working with the school, and get to see Sherry and, A.R. Sullivan, some of the people.
But did you really see A.R. and did you really see Sherry, or did you see me?
I actually saw them first because I was able to go visit them before the basketball game. So it was a good time to go visit them because Sherry was like a mom when I was in school, and she was like a mom to you when you were in school. So that was where the whole connection came, that we were able to, be friends with somebody that was so important in our lives. And she was the one that actually brought us together. While I was at that basketball game that night, of course, I noticed you in your nice little green and white Sullivan cheerleading suit.
Aww.
And I was sitting with Sherry, and I said, "Hey, Sherry, who's that right there?" She said, "Oh, that's Jamie. You and her be nice together." And later on that night, what happened?
We happened to be at the same party.
Yes.
Because I wasn't really a party. I still am not, but I wasn't really a party person back then, because I was trying to focus on getting my bachelor's degree and finishing that up. But Sherry asked me if I was going to be at that party, and I was like, I don't think so. And she's like, oh, I think you should go. There's somebody that
She totally set that up because she told me the same thing. If you go to that party, I'll make sure Jamie's there.
I tell you, Sherry loved both of us, and it's so weird because we were at Sullivan at different times, but she really just kind of adopted both of us, and she was instrumental.
Yes.
Look at me and my words. She was very instrumental in Jada's adoption too. We had to get a letter from family members, but we also had to get letters from people that knew both of us.
Yes.
And at that time, there wasn't really people that knew both of us before we met. And so she wrote a very nice letter to the adoption agency saying why she thought we would be great parents. And when I read it, it just melted my heart.
Yeah, it was very touching.
Yeah, so we both absolutely love Sherry and Jim Klein. Like they both were so good to us. And like I said, Sherry has since passed away, but she will forever be near and dear in our hearts and a huge part of our story.
Yes, absolutely.
And so that night we went to the party, you let me say, okay, I was definitely underage, I think, at the time, but I didn't drink. And so somebody needed to do a beer run. So I was like, well, I'll drive, but because I was always really like, I didn't believe in drinking and driving or anything like that. So I definitely wanted to step up and say, I'm going to drive. And so we went outside.
Is that the way you remember the story?
That's the way I remember it.
You remember the story that way?
I remember it. And then I remember we went outside, and then he was like, well, I'll go.
I remember the story is I would volunteer, and you would go with me.
Maybe. I'm pretty sure you chased after me, though.
I don't know. We have to think about that a little bit.
That was 31 years ago. Yeah. So
anyhow, we left the building, and we were walking out. And
you're like, that's I said, my car.
Yes. And you said, can I drive?
You should let me drive it. And he was like, oh, I would let you drive it, but it's a stick shift.
And you said, that's my white probe over there. I'm a country girl, and I grew up, and I learned to drive a stick first. So I had to give up the keys.
Absolutely. And you let me drive. So, okay, so I'm a big talker. So once I got behind the car, like, I'll be 100% honest. I don't know if I ever told you this. I was super nervous because, one, you were extremely cute.
Well, and I thought, what can I say?
I thought, okay, don't wreck this man's brand new 300ZX. And so, but it was a very fast car. And so I get in it and I get on the Watterson Expressway. You know, speed limit back then was probably 55. I was probably going 35. And that's when you did your signature move.
My signature move. Best move ever. I looked at her. And I was like, oh, I've got to make a move here. What do I do? So I used the car and her driving to make my big move.
You're funny.
So I looked at you and I said.
And I mean, and I'm on 10 and 2 because like I'm following all the rules. I was a rule follower. So I'm like 10 and 2 on the driving on the steering wheel.
So I looked at you and said.
Unless I was shifting, of course.
If you're going to drive this car, and I put my hand on the leg and I pressed it down, I said, you need to drive a little faster.
Okay, so on the inside, I was like, like that. And I was so super excited, but, you know, like I couldn't let you know that I was excited. So I was like, okay. You know, so I was like playing it cool because I didn't want to be like overly like freaking out because you were really cute. I mean, you're still cute.
Yeah, but you as well. So you kind of know when you know, because the next day I left to go to Greece.
Right. So you told me.
For 5 months.
Right. So you said, hey, I'm going to be at the airport, Standerford Field in Louisville, Kentucky. And you said I leave at like 7:30, which my class didn't start till like 8:15. So I knew that if I went there, I could get there in time to say goodbye. Because back in those days, so like to any of our young viewers, they wouldn't know what this is like. But back in the old days in the airports, you could literally just go through. I don't even think they had security. Like there wasn't security. You just walked up to the gate and it said, you know, like this is the flight, this is where it's going. Anybody could walk up to the gate. So there was no security back then. So I go to the gate, I'm waiting on you, or you were already at the gate.
I'm at the gate with my mom and my sister who took me to the airport.
And you said,
because I had to leave my car, and I said, someone is coming to see me off. And I said, she's really cute and I really like her a lot. And I had gotten out of a long relationship, you know, shortly before that.
Yeah.
And my mom said, stop that. There's no one coming to see you. Why are you telling that story? So we waited and waited some more until the point where I said, well, maybe she's not going to come. And about, 5 minutes before they called for my flight to board, you came around in that long white trench coat and you were walking down. I said to my mother, there she is. And she said, boy, stop lying. And I walked up to you and gave you a little smooch.
You gave me a little kiss on the cheek.
Gave you a little kiss on the cheek.
Gosh, of course, on the inside, I'm like, It's all good.
Yes.
So then you went to Greece for like 100 years, it seemed like. We stayed in touch I wrote letters because my mom and dad gave me like $20 a week. That covered gas, which I could fill my tank for $5. And so that was enough for gas, but also for like my food and stuff, which my roommate Tanya and I, we always ate at Chi Chi's on Friday because we had plus day on Friday. So I had about $10 of wiggle room that was kind of discretionary.
Cheese was the best.
Man.
You could go there and get that chips and salsa and queso. That was always free.
Right. That's what we did. So we got the chips and then we would get something that was 99 cents. So I would usually get like an enchilada. And so it was 99 cents. So that like after it was like $1.05 or something. And then we would leave $1 tip to the waitress. Because another girl that we cheered with in college, her sister actually managed the store, and then she would give us probably about $30 worth of Andes mints. That's probably why that company went out of business, like because we ate all the Andes mints. But so I had $10 discretionary that I used to call you, but you on your side, your phone bill was astronomical. Like,
I don't know if I want to say what my phone bill was.
It was bad. What was your first phone bill? I don't even remember it off the top of my head, but what was your...
You really want me to say what my phone...
It's embarrassing, but...
It is extremely embarrassing. However, it led to this.
Yeah.
Because we talked all the time, and there was no phone cards. There was no telephone plans.
It was like it was like $5 to $7 a minute, depending on how long you talked.
And I remember one time I called you, and the movie The Addams Family was coming on
and went off,
and I remember when you answered the phone, I heard the music. Dun, 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 dun. Yes.
Dun. They do what they want to do.
Say what they want to say. Yes.
Yeah.
It was by MC Hammer.
Yes.
That song was.
I remember the phone. Like I was in my mom and dad's kitchen the whole time. Like they had one of those phones with a real long cord. Yes. And that was the phone I was on.
Yes. And I remember we were still on the telephone when that same music came up, because they played the same music at the end of the movie as well.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun. They do what they want to do, say what they want to say.
Yes.
Exactly.
So I knew we had been on the phone for a couple hours, because it's a pretty long movie. But we did that all the time. So
what was your
I had to set it up before I told. So one more thing, I would call you in the morning from the gym, where my team will allow me to use their phone. That didn't charge me.
Right. It just was whenever you were at your apartment.
Whenever I was at my apartment and we talked, which was most of the time in the evenings after school hours for you, or during your school hours when you blocked the payphone.
That's a classic.
Okay? Yes. However, my first telephone bill was $12,000 to you.
So I think that actually I think that had something to do with why you ended up just asking me to marry you, because I was cheaper just to travel around the world with you.
No,
I joke about that.
I know you joke about that. Actually, I got to know who you were by talking to you.
Right.
You know, we had no interruptions, nobody.
And nobody really knew about us talking. So we didn't have really any sabotagers, or what would that be called? A saboteur? Nobody trying to sabotage our relationship. So we really had about 9 months, 6 to 9 months.
Yes.
While, let me see, because you left, it was in November, I think.
Yes.
Came back in April or May, so 6 months.
Yes.
And, we basically fell in love. It was a long distance relationship. I would write you letters with horrible grammar and it's probably spelling errors in it, but you didn't care. You fell in love with me and I fell in love with you. And then you came back.
Did not tell anybody I was
anybody
in
you were
States.
in town.
I was back in Kentucky for 2 weeks before anyone knew it.
Right. So back then there was no Wi-Fi, or there was no social media. I had a bag cell phone that was used for emergencies only. That was like $10 a minute. Like, this was in the early 90s.
It was Nokia or Motorola. I can't remember which one it was.
It was a bag that was huge. And so really there was none of that. So we could really fly under the radar without, like, back in those days, nobody really knew where or what we were doing. But then, like, once everybody knew you were in town, like, you just got pulled in 1,000 different directions. So I think that's one of the things that we had in our early stages, in our early relationship, that a lot of people didn't have, because, like I said, nobody knew about it. So nobody was like, oh, you don't want to date him, or they weren't telling you, oh, you don't want to date her, which I don't understand why people are always like that. But in every relationship I was in, there was always somebody saying, oh, you can do better, you can do better. So I think that it was very organic, our relationship.
Well, I always had something in the back of my mind that my dad once told me, and it's kind of funny. He said, son, make sure you marry someone that is going to have the same aspirations and things as you, that's going to be driven like you and do the same thing. He said, don't bring anybody broke home because you broke yourself.
Your dad was funny.
He said, don't bring anybody broke home because you broke yourself. So that's always stuck in the back of my mind to make sure that, that I was equally yoked with somebody that was as driven, as competitive, that wanted a lot out of life, that wanted to experience life and all the different cultures and things like that. And I think that's one of the things that you definitely bring to the table is that, that's what this whole thing is about.
Right.
We've been doing this for 30 years now, and it's just getting better. Each and every day, every year is better and better and better. So I'm extremely happy to do this with you.
It's funny because I'm trying to think, that summer you played in Venezuela. And so I flew down. I got on the wrong plane. That's a whole nother episode.
No, that's a story that needs to be told
a story
right now.
I think that's a whole nother episode.
It is a whole nother episode, but
it's kind of ironic. I ended up being a travel agent. But maybe that's what it is. I take my mistakes to teach everybody else what not to do. So I had a 2-week break. You were playing in Venezuela. Yes. You asked if I would come down and see you. And I was like, oh yeah, of course. I had no passport. So your agent, Eloise, set it up for me to fly to Chicago. She arranged I took the L downtown. She arranged for somebody in the government building to, I don't know.
To work with you, get your passport.
Back door.
Yes.
Had a passport.
Same way she sent me. Yes.
I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing, but I guess that's the white glove service that you get when you're a professional athlete. So she whisked me through some back door on in a government office where they issue the passport. I had it. That evening, I then went back to O'Hare. I took the L back to O'Hare, got on my flight to fly to Venezuela. So I flew to Venezuela, to Caracas. And once again, this is back when there wasn't telephone. So it was really hard to connect with each other. So I knew that I was going to a place. I really didn't know what it was. I didn't know anything about Venezuela other than everybody's always late. And basically that was it. Everybody's always late.
Which turned out to be really important.
Comes into the story here in a little bit. In 2 different parts. So I had to get a hotel in Caracas. Now, mind you, I didn't have an ATM card. I literally just had probably $150 cash with me, which back then I was
beautiful young lady in a country she's never been in.
With a big old gold chain that my mom and dad got me for Christmas.
Exactly.
And I probably had on nice earrings, diamond studded, or they were definitely nice. So I remember a herringbone necklace. So I stay in the hotel. I go back to the airport, and I'm kind of out of money because I didn't know the hotel took majority of my money. Then the cab took the rest of my money. So now I'm down to no dollars. I may have some coins, but I'm okay, thank God I'm meeting JJ because I have no money. I have no credit card. I have no ATM card. So this wasn't really that well thought through.
Yes.
But this is how people get kidnapped and stuff. Anyway, thank God that didn't happen. I don't even know if our kids know this story. So I guess if they watch this episode, they'll be like, so you did dumb stuff as a kid too? Absolutely. We wrote the book on the dumb stuff.
That's why we're trying to help you avoid.
That's how we know what to tell them, what not to do. So the person helping me with my bags in the Caracas airport helped me with my bags and then got mad that I didn't have a tip money. So then he shows me the thing. And I literally emptied out. I was like, I have no money. I don't know how to speak Spanish. I have no money. And I'm 20 years old.
20-year-old young lady.
Anyway, he puts me at the gate.
Well.
He puts me at the gate and I wait. Everything's in Spanish. So when they start boarding the plane, I just get in line and I get on the plane. Like an idiot. Like I don't like yeah, this is amazing that I did not end up in the wrong place. I get on the wrong plane. I'm buckled up. This is like, once again, this is in the early 90s. So there's not a whole lot of cross-referencing with computers and this is like.
They took her ticket.
Took my ticket.
Gave her a seat.
I got my seat. And
plane was taking off.
Early. Now, mind you, the only thing I knew about Venezuela was everything is late. And I thought, there's no way this plane's taking off 20 minutes early. So I'm looking and I asked the person next and they don't speak English. Like so nobody's speaking English, but I am knowing. I'm like something is telling me I'm on the wrong plane. So I unbuckle and I stand up. I was like, does anybody on here speak English? And somebody's like, I do, is like broken English. I said, I think I'm on the wrong plane. And so like, this is when if cameras were rolling, like they'd have been like, this girl's an idiot. So anyway, they look at my ticket. They're saying stuff in Spanish, but I can tell they are not amused.
They're furious.
They're not amused by me at all. So they then tell the pilot, they pull back into the, taxi back into the gate, open the door, shove me out, shut the door and leave. And there I stand with my carry-on suitcase, my purse, a ticket, the stub of a ticket, because the other ones had taken my ticket. So a stub of a ticket with no help.
So she was coming to see me, and we had a game the night before. And in Venezuela, what you do, you play 3 games over the weekend, and whichever team wins 2 of the 3, the best of the 3, wins the actual win, the point. And we had just won 2 of the games, and it was a great night. So Jamie finally gets on the other plane. She flies into the place that I am.
And I'm pretty sure, because I compare the letters, like M, like, because this in Spanish, like the M still is the M, and like everything's like everything's matching. So I'm feeling a little bit confident.
And I had worked with the team to arrange for a driver to pick me up, to take me to the airport, to meet her there. But again, like she said, everything's late. It's always late.
So
my driver shows up late to me, but Jamie is already at the airport.
I collect my luggage and I come through expecting JJ Eubanks to be there at this airport. It's a very small, because it was Margarita Island, so it's a very small island. So I get off the plane, and now mind you, I've not talked to him in 24 hours because I was like in Chicago, then I was in the hotel in Caracas. I get off, nowhere to be seen. There's no JJ Eubanks. There's actually nobody, like no signs, no balloons, no like nothing. I am literally in an airport that I'm not even sure if I'm in the right airport. So I do what any 20-year-old non-experienced traveler would do in a foreign country in an airport with no money would do.
You cry.
I cried. I started crying. So I just immediately start crying. I'm like, oh my God, like my mom and dad are going to kill me. Like, how do I even fix this? Like,
how do I get myself in this situation?
How did I get here? Like, how did I get, like, and so I start second guess. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm such an idiot. Like I've flown over here for this boy that I kind of know, but I barely know. Like it's been this long distance relationship. We've spent some time together. I love him. He says he loves me, but does he love me? Like, you know, so you start just second guessing everything. Absolutely. So I'm bawling and at the baggage claim. So this guy with like, you know, the Texas hat, like the big, what is that, a 10-gallon? Like, I don't know what you, like the big old Texas hat.
Gotcha.
Comes out of nowhere and he says, honey, what are you crying for? And I say, you speak English? And he's like, yeah, no, this is how kids are kidnapped. Like this right here. Like he would have seen me coming a mile away. I was obviously screaming. I'm new at this. And so I said, well, you know, and I'm crying and I'm sobbing and I'm like, well, you know, this ugly cry, of course. And I'm like, well, I've got this boyfriend and he plays basketball here and he's supposed to be here, but I was in a hotel last night and I have no money. And, you know, and I'm like, I'm rambling like I do that anyway. So he's like, you know, he said, I know exactly who he is, which is how people get in the car with strangers. But he didn't ask me to get in a car with him, thank God. But he says, well, they played in a game last night. I was like, yeah. And he's like, they won. They're probably still celebrating. They won a big game last night. So the tears dried up. I was like, he better not be celebrating. Like, he's supposed to be here picking me up. And so a few seconds later, I'm still talking to the guy. You walk in with the driver and you're like, I'm so sorry I'm late. I was like, I was in Caracas. And I was like, I have no money. I was in a hotel.
Yeah, the whole
and I was like,
story. She just started pouring the whole story
and I was
on
like,
me.
I'm so glad that you're here. You didn't abandon me. I'm not here by myself. And so I was like, I never let you out of my sight. After that again.
I'm surprised you traveled again by yourself.
I think we always had things in place that I had handlers, like making sure I was like, yeah, that never happened again, because I was pretty traumatized by that. But thank God for the strange Texan man that didn't kidnap me, because that was a good opportunity to like be like, oh, here, I need you to carry this bag back to America for me.
Yes.
And then the next thing you know, I'm locked up abroad. Like, that's how these things happen. So this is how we know what to tell our kids, not what to do.
Yes. Wow.
So
what a story. See, you had to tell that story.
Yeah, we can't tell our story without that.
Absolutely. So all of that led us into travel.
It did.
All those experiences, living in Italy, living in Greece, living in Israel, Japan, Argentina, Cyprus, Canada, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, Amsterdam, Bulgaria. Right. We were fit for this.
We were. And I think that, like, after we did the Venezuela, after I did the Venezuelan dance of not knowing how to travel, then I had to go back for school. And then after that, you went to Canada.
Yes.
And that's when you called me. And I always joke and I say, you asked me to marry you because it was just cheaper than having a $12,000 a month.
For me, so I was 24.
Oh, okay.
I was 24 because my birthday's in November.
Yeah.
And we did get married in August.
Yeah.
So I was 24 when we got married. So I was 24 at this time, and I was like, I had always told myself, I'm definitely never getting married until I'm older than 30, over 30. So I will not get married till I'm 30 plus. And when I was in Canada,
I think
it just really hit me. It hit me that, you know what, I met the most amazing person. I don't want to travel anymore by myself without this person being on my side.
So you called and you said, well, will you come up here? And I was like,
and you said, no.
Not.
And you said, I'm not going anywhere.
I'm
finishing my school, and I'm not going anywhere as your girlfriend.
As a girlfriend. I was like, no, because in my little Venezuela trip, I saw how the girlfriends are treated versus, and I'm like, and I'm not dropping, I'm getting my college degree. Yes. And I said, and I'm not traveling as your girlfriend.
And, and I am somewhat of I'm a romantic. Yeah. I like romantic music. I like romantic movies and things like that. Real romantic stuff. I get tears.
But we got caught up in
that's me.
I think.
That's me. And I would have loved to have that real romantic.
I love our story. I wouldn't change it for anything.
And all of those things. But for me, the timing could not have been better. It was time. So when I was in Canada and I knew I wanted to spend my life with you and I knew I wanted you to travel with me, it just came out.
Yeah.
I said, well, why don't we get married?
And like anybody that would fly down to Venezuela with no plan, I said, sure. I was like, when are you going to be back in the States? And I said, let's look. And you gave a date. And I said, that doesn't work. I've got something that weekend.
I think it was June or so when that call happened and we were married
in August. Yeah, so but I still stayed and finished my school.
Yes,
because I didn't graduate.
But here's what's neat about that whole story is from the time that I met you, November the 10th at 9:32 when I first saw you.
See, you're better than me. You
9:32, 1992, we were married August the 27th, 1993.
But sometimes I think it's August 22nd.
You do. That's your mom and dad's anniversary.
I always tell him happy anniversary on the wrong day. Just like Dwayne's birthday. I always tell him a day early. I don't know how I get it. I'm terrible with dates and times, but you remember all that.
Yeah.
So you flew home and we got married, and I ended up finishing my degree before I joined you on your world adventure. And here we are 30 years later.
Still at it. And I know some people sometime wonder if, if you know a person for a short time, is it really true love, or is it going to work out? Well, I think we're an example of it can work out.
Well, I think we may just be stubborn too, and neither one of us like to fail. And so, since they were taking bets at our wedding,
I was going to say, I let others win, right?
Yeah, they were taking bets at our wedding. Like, how long will this? I bet they'll last 6 months. I bet they'll last a year. Oh no, they're not going to last a year. Like, our friends. These are our friends taking bets on how. And JJ and I don't like to lose. We always say we either win or learn. And I guess we didn't want to learn on this, so we do not give up, and we cannot let other people win. So,
but it is true love.
It is true love, 100%.
It is true.
So that, my friends, is how JJ and I met, and how our story started. So tune in next time for more of Unscripted with Jamie and JJ.